Hello, welcome back to ScottyFullStack.com. I'm Scotty, and today we're going to be talking about Azure. And the last video I did, it was an agile video, base pay 170K, 5 years of experience, which of course we're trying to trim down. The barrier to entry is super low right now, but the tools that they were asking for were Azure DevOps, Terraform is what we're going to cover. We're not going to do configuration management. Check out some of my older videos for stuff like that. And then we can do Kubernetes, we're going to do AKS, and we will go over what that means for your budget momentarily. And then, of course, Microsoft Azure as the cloud provider. So anyone who's been around this channel knows that I've done AWS, stuck it to free tier, tried to keep costs as low as possible for you to learn. And here what we would need to do is, if you don't have credits for Azure, you're going to need to use a VM for our master node that's like 4 cents an hour. So we're going to stand it up and tear it down, but you can expect that something will come out of your pocket here, and you can set up a billing dashboard if you want, a report to email you if you get close to that threshold of spending, whatever is making you comfortable. So that's all there really is to it. We're going to go ahead and do a quick little project here to get you acquainted to these tools, all interacting together. And I think it's going to be really cool. So like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I really appreciate you being here and listening, and let's jump right in. So again, anybody who's been around knows that we've used Terraform with AWS before, and we've used kind of the standard, formatting for that, and just a quick little main TF file. So we're going to do here for Azure. So we're going to use the Azure provider from Terraform, and it's right here in the documents. I will put that in the description along with other meaningful links to this video. So you can reference those pretty quick. So jump over to your editor real quick. I already have a repo set up, and I'm just going to be committing to main. You can branch if you want and kind of make this an official project for yourself. I'm just going to be trying to do this very quickly. I just want to make 2 directories to start, Terraform and AKS. I'm going to go into Terraform, and I'm going to make a main.tf file. And save it just to get it initiated there. And I want to start with this first example that includes a resource group and a VNet. So I'm going to throw that in here. And as you can see here, we have the provider. I'm going to do 9.5 because that's the most recent one that I have. And I want to replace example everywhere with like product or something. Okay. So here we have a resource group named Product Resources, and this I want to put in East US. And then here we have a product network. It's referencing the name and location of our resource group, so it'll be in the same location, and the address space is just standard. So we're good there. Let's jump back to Kubernetes, and we're going to grab no, we don't need the resource group. We need from here down, so the cluster the way through its options. We're going to throw that in the bottom here. Okay, so we have our VNet up. We're going to have we're going to replace example again with product everywhere. Oops, sorry. Example. Okay, and here we have our cluster name is going to be product AKS. We want to replace the standard D v2. We want to replace that with this handy tool is azureprice.net, and here's where we get the 4 cents for the 2 core, which is required for this AKS. So we're going to do the standard B2S. Let's jump back over, paste that there, and save it, and everything else can be good. Tagging, if you're not familiar with cloud tagging, it's good for like separating clients and building purposes, running reports. So we can just tag that as environment or add whatever else you need to add there. So just keep the standard default. Now that we have that in place, we can go ahead and init. That's going to initiate our Azure. By the way, if you just ran into an error here, if you haven't authenticated, so the Azure CLI download link I'll put in the description. If you already have Azure CLI installed, you need to run the AZ login command to authenticate what you're doing here. So sorry, I should have prefaced with that. Now after you get logged in and you initialize and everything, you can do a plan if you want. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and apply, do an auto approve. I already know what's going to happen here because I've done a dry run. So I'm going to go ahead and run this now. And this is going to take several minutes for standing up, 3 resources, one of those being a cluster. So you might want to pause. I'm going to pause here and jump back, so you might want to pause your video and wait for it to complete. All right, so it looks like my Terraform just wrapped up here. So, pause your video if you're not there yet. But what I'm going to do is just refresh on all my resources here, and we can see all of the Kubernetes AKS stuff that's been set up for us. And then we have our cluster. We have our VNet here that we also set up, and this is all part of our resource group, which is product resources. So pretty cool, right? Everything's right here, right where we need it. Great interface and easy to interpret. So with that said, what we want to do is, assuming that you've obviously logged into the AZ CLI, I'm going to go ahead and grab those credentials now. So we're going to do AZ AKS, get credentials, and then just the name that we named it. So product AKS1, resource group is the product resources. We're going to go ahead and get that. I already have it on here. And then we're going to do a kubectl get nodes, and there's our node. So that's our VM that we stood up, and we are ready to roll. So the next piece here is to create our deployment, create our service with a load balancer, and then we can access our app from the internet. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and do a kubectl create deployment REST API. And I'm using this image, Scotty Full Stack Basic REST API version 1. This version 1 is important here because I want to show you how we're going to update the image from AZDO. So let's go ahead and create it. Okay, and then we can create our service, kubectl expose deployment REST API load balancer port 8000. Okay, it's been exposed. Let's do get service. Here you can see our external IP is coming up. It's pending right now. Let's check it again. There you go, it's populated. Let's grab that and let's navigate back to our browser. 8000. Check on our deployment, make sure everything's fine. Okay, we're running there. All right, and we are loaded. So now I can jump on over here to API, and here is my application. So pretty cool, no database. So this is going to be just on the storage on the pod. But yeah, okay, so the app is up and we have our deployments on there. So what we want to do next for our project is jump back over here, and we're just going to pull those YAMLs into the AKS folder here. So if I go back into AKS at the root directory, I can do make dir, and we can do deployments and services. And here I want to do a kubectl get deployment -o YAML REST API, and then put that into deployments. And then I want to do the same thing but with services. svc-o YAML REST API into services service YAML. Okay, and so those are there. So if I were to open up both of those, here in the deployment YAML we can see we have our v1 image, and then here in the service we have our load balancer and the external IP. So pretty cool. So we can push all this up now. So let's jump back, git add, git commit, updated everything, and we are ready to push. Okay, so we're in Git, up to date there, and one thing we want to do here on this deployment, I should have added just a minute ago, was let's go ahead and delete this timestamp, because that metadata might cause our Azure DevOps pipeline to fail later, so might as well do it now. Updated meta. Push that up. Okay, so that's it here. Let's go ahead and jump over to Azure DevOps and get acquainted there. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Azure DevOps, I'll post this in the description, but we're dev@azure.com. You log in with your Microsoft credentials, and here we can update, we can authenticate to GitHub and pull that in, and then we can also authenticate to our Kubernetes AKS cluster. So if I, let me just remove this, this is old for me. Okay, and so I have my GitHub already connected, and I want to add a new service connection. So you can add your GitHub if you haven't already, but I'm going to do kube, next. I'm just going to authenticate to my subscription, and let's do this. We are going to, it's going to auto-populate these things for me, makes it really easy. Log in. You can also use service account or config if you wanted to copy and paste too. But look, I can just pull that. Pretty easy. My namespace is default, and service connection name, I'm just going to name this AKS. Grant it to all my pipelines, and save. Okay, we have a new connection. Now what I want to do is jump back to pipelines, and I want to create my first pipeline. And here we're going to do GitHub to connect. I'm going to jump to my Scotty Full Stack repositories, Gables. There we go, starter pipeline. So it's going to start us out with this basic YAML. I'm just going to remove all this stuff under the steps, and I don't really need this trigger here because I'm not doing CI/CD for this. So here we're going to do show assistant. And I want to add Kubernetes kube control. Now, it's important to note that what we're doing here is all we're doing is we're going to update the image on the deployment on the cluster, not in our source control. So what I mean by that is I'm going to authenticate to AKS, the namespace default. And here I'm just going to do the set command. So we're going to set an image on the cluster, not in our source control. So when we go back to our immutable infrastructure in our repository, that code will not get updated by this. So you'd have to add extra steps for that or use a different type of command. I think this is just a good way to get our feet wet, so we're going to use this. And I'm going to do the arguments here. So we use kube control set image deployment, the name of the deployment, REST API. A basic REST API is the container name, and then we want to do image. Okay, so the container name's from the container that's already been deployed, and this image is what we're going to pass to this command whenever we run it. Advanced, I'm just going to go ahead and do no output here. Output format, and then we want to add a variable, new variable, image. I'm going to do lower here, and then we're just going to do value. I'm just going to add image here and let others override as they need. Save, and we can add that. And here we go. We have our steps here added, and that will be committed to our repository. So let's go. Oh wait, one more thing. Let's just save this. Okay, commit direct. Now I do want to just override the trigger here, so that every time that we commit to main, it's not going to run, because this is not CI/CD, so we don't want to have a trigger here. Okay, I'm going to override, and I'm going to disable continuous integration for this one. Save it, and that'll commit up, and now we can run this. So if I come back to my pipelines now, click here, no runs yet, let's run it. Let's add our variable. So here, image, I want to do the Scotty full stack basic REST API. And this is, I want to do a v02 here. Update, go back, and let's go ahead and hope that this works. Gonna run it. Okay, so that's going to kick off here with everything. It's going to check out the repository, and while that's running too, I'm also going to in tandem come back here and pull up those pods and watch them. The -w flag watches. You see that? Look, we already have the new one coming up, so it's working. And the old one is terminating now because the new one is running. Pretty cool. I love Kubernetes. Okay, so that's doing its thing, and of course we can run back and see that it completed successfully. Let's jump back and let's do this again. Kube control git, or let's do, we already have it up there. So describe pod. I'm going to grab the new one, and then we're going to do a like a pipe to grep and -i for case insensitive image. And look, there's our new image, right? And if I were to come back and reload this, so my object's gone because the pod has recycled, and but our app is up and running with the new version. Pretty awesome. So yeah, that's it for that. The last step, of course, is to tear down your infrastructure. So if you go back to, whoops. If you go back to, did you know you could do that? If I just accidentally went to the wrong directory, you can do cd and then a dash, and it takes you right back to the last one you were at. It's pretty cool. Sorry, side note there. So if I come back to Terraform, and I do a Terraform destroy, it's going to destroy all of my resources. So it's going to tear down the whole cluster and everything that I added, the VNet and the resource group, and we don't have to worry about that being charged to our account. But again, always set up the billing alerts just in case you forget something or something fails and you didn't catch it. You just want to know what you're being charged. So while that runs, I'll thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being a part of my audience. And so if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that and liking. But otherwise, I just really hope you learned something here, and now have the ability to grow more in your understanding of Azure concepts. So I'm going to let that run. It should delete everything. Of course, you can always want to verify, go back to your portal, check and make sure that all of your resources are deleted. These will start trickling off as this Terraform runs. Now, remember too, if you made it this far, remember that I have done a video in the past where we made the Terraform a part of the pipeline. That's what you want to do. You want to keep your infrastructure immutable and make it easy to stand up and tear down, and basically have a pipeline that you know is going to run every single time. So we don't want to be running Terraform locally on our machine. But again, thanks for being here, and see you next time.